Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I was rolling through the comment sections, as I normally do over here. I typically, once a day, I read all of the comments that I've received over here for the last 24 hours. And I saw this comment that I had received on my video, Drama and Negativity in Sobriety and Recovery. And the comment says, Peter, I would love to hear your thoughts on coping with all of the stupid stuff you did while actively using. There are a lot of people who don't talk to me anymore, and to an extent, I don't blame them. I know making amends is part of the 9th step, and I'm not there yet, but I just genuinely feel kind of bad. And I saw this comment, and I actually had planned to kind of make another video today. Well, I had planned to make another video today talking about something completely separate about recovery. And I thought, I think this is a really, really important video for me to make. And I actually think it's an important video for me to make, even for myself, because I think it's something that I went through for a very long time in early recovery. And when I say early recovery, I mean maybe my first 5 to 10 years, I would say is early recovery for me, looking back on it. And I think, we refer to early recovery as maybe the first year, but I'm talking about maybe the first 5 or 10 years, when I had cleaned up the wreckage of my past and I had made amends to most people in my life, it still felt like something was missing for me. It still felt like I couldn't get back who I had been, before I got sober, if that makes sense. And, I started using really early. I started using at 12 years old. I was drinking on a regular basis. And it kind of progressively went from there into other substances and things like that. And, I wouldn't say that the entire duration of my active using that I was hurting other people or doing stupid stuff, as she refers to, or he refers to in here, I don't know. But there were many people that I did hurt. There were many people, addiction is a disease of selfishness and self-centeredness, right? So when all you're thinking about is your own needs and getting high or getting drunk, you don't think about the people around you. You don't think about your mom and dad, let alone the neighbor down the street whose mailbox maybe you piled into, or, you just don't think about any of those kinds of things, right? You don't think about anybody that you're hurting, or, maybe you're at a party and you see $20 sitting on somebody's nightstand in their bedroom and you take that 20. You don't think about those things, right? You only think about your own selfish needs. I don't know that I refer to that as stupid stuff. I think for me, it was a lot of just the negative behaviors that came along with actively using. Do I think that they were stupid things that I did in active use? Yes. But I think for me it was hard. When I got sober, and it wasn't at first either when I first got sober, it wasn't like this happened in 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years. But it was after a couple years, I started looking at my active using as if I was driving down the road or going down the road, let's just say out in the middle of nowhere. I always kind of picture the desert, right? I'm going to Las Vegas or something. And I'm driving in the middle of the desert. And at some point, I got off the road and I got out of my car and started just walking, right? And I started walking in the desert. And when I got sober, I got back on the road. And I was further down the road than I had been, so it wasn't like I got right back on the road where I was. It was like I was further down, but I wasn't as far down as other people were. I had missed out on a lot. It wasn't like I had had the same life experiences that other people had. And so I was kind of out in this wilderness, right? And I think with that goes all of these behaviors. I think one of the hardest things to do in sobriety and recovery is to forgive ourselves for the things that we did, and and this is just my personal opinion. I'm just going to put this out there. I just want to make clear that this is just my personal opinion. But I know that when we talk about making amends, so making amends is in steps 8 and 9, right? That we made a list of people that we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, made direct amends to them all. And then, step 9 is making direct amends. when we talk about making amends to people, I've heard a lot of people that have said, well, I put myself at the top of my amends list because I'm the one that I have to make amends to first. Personally, and I am no representative, like I say, this is just my personal experience having worked the steps. I feel like my amends and my forgiveness comes as a result of doing the work of the 12-step program, whatever 12-step program you're in, right? So for me, to do this whole process of making amends to myself, I think comes as a result of putting all the other people that I've harmed first, and really taking a look at that and saying, well, who have I hurt? What crazy behaviors have I done? What actions have I done, I think once you've done that, it becomes easier down the road to look at that and say, well, I do, to some degree, forgive myself, I just did a video on here the other day, but I love the definition of forgiveness by Oprah. I talked about this, I think it was on here, that forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be any different. It means accepting that it has happened to you, not accepting that it was okay. Accepting it has happened, and now what do I do about it so that the past does not hold you hostage? And for me, today, it's like, as long as I am doing the best that I can do on a daily basis to be the best version of myself today, as long as I am from a recovery point of view, and that's defined by, for my recovery, going to meetings, calling my sponsor, working a 12-step program, being of service to others, reading my basic text, those kinds of things. As long as I am doing those things for recovery, and as long as I am not putting out any more negativity in the world, and I am ready to make amends if I do something that I need to make amends for, we talk about that in step 10, those are more like daily immediate amends. If I do something and I'm ready to make amends for it today and I'm not putting out any more harm into the world, then I've got a pretty good job of not needing to go back and continuing to clear up the wreckage of my past. What I have found, okay, is that there are going to always be those people out there that are never going to forget. There are going to be those people out there that are never going to forgive. And that's okay. And that's their right. We've done a lot of harm, and typically I have found that those people are people that are closer to us. My dad, when I got sober, was very, very angry. Very angry. And, he was so scared and so hurt for so long that I think that morphed into anger, that he felt very taken advantage of, and even though, he had been enabling me and things like that, and I think that was part of it too, is he felt stupid for enabling me, and, he just had a lot of anger tied up into it, right? Well, that anger took some time. I mean, it wasn't just like I made amends to him and he said, okay, let's go on with our lives. I mean, it took some time, right? And, in fact, I talked about this on my vlog. Several years ago, when I read Beautiful Boy, I hadn't read it ever and had, heard it talked about all these times, and it's a book about recovery or this son's descent into meth addiction and his father's story through that. It's a fantastic book. And I called my dad and I said, hey, Dad, have you read this book called Beautiful Boy? And he goes, oh, yeah, I read it when it first came out. And I said, you read it when it first came out? How did you hear about it? He goes, oh, I don't know, the New York Times or something like that. And I said, was that what it was like for you? And he said, that was like the fear. And he said, that was exactly what it was like for me, right? And I think the reality is, we don't really understand, I don't think we have the capability to understand really the harm that we have done to others until much later. I really don't think we do. I don't think that we have the ability to really fully grasp until we have heard from other people what they have done to other people, and we have sat and heard, how it's affected other people. Not with our own, maybe, but in hearing other people's stories for a long time, and it's kind of, saturated in. I don't know that we really can fully understand what that's like, Today, I know that there are going to be people, well, first of all, I've been sober for a very long time. I've been sober for 27 and a half years today. There aren't many people in my life that I associate with that aren't willing to forgive me or, you know, forget the errors of my past when I was using. I don't, like, that's not my reality today, and that would be the one thing I would say, is put one foot in front of the other. And down the road, like, people go in and out of our lives, and before you know it, it will be like the same people you had in your life then, unless they're family, won't. And I think that, you know, when you walk the walk instead of talking the talk, and this is the thing, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like one of the coolest things for me to witness in going to meetings is when a newcomer comes through the door, meeting one, you know, and they're scared or they're angry or they don't want to be sober and they're fighting it and they're resistant. And then you get to see them pick up a 6-month token or a year token, and they're so completely changed, and there's a calmness and a serenity about that, right? They've changed into these new people as a result of sobriety. Your family sees that too. Your family and friends witness that as well, and they will see that happen over time. And that's where they will be able to start forgiving you about the things they've done. You know, I think it's just a lot of it comes from a fear place. My mom would throw up things that had happened in the past, and I think for her, it was a lot of things that she was really scared of that I was going to return to, you know? And I really had to just kind of keep my eye on the prize and stay focused on recovery and realize that what other people said about me was none of my business. It just really wasn't. And that I didn't seek those people's validation today. Like, there was such a long period of my life where I sought other people's validation, and that was really a big part of my recovery, or of my addiction, you know, was that if I got high or if I got, you know, whatever, drunk, like, it numbed me to where I didn't really care what people thought about me. But when I was sober, it was hard because, like, I wanted that validation from other people that I was good enough, and what I had to realize was I had to seek that for myself. And so, you know, it wasn't about me constantly seeking out. There was always going to be somebody that wasn't going to want to see me, you know, like, I don't know if I shared this story here or on any of my channels before. I think maybe on my vlog I have. But I had an ex that I needed to make amends to. And this is not of my 2 exes that I talk about. This is somebody I had dated when I was like 18 years old. And a friend of ours had died. And so I was at his funeral and I saw him, and he lived out of town, like far out of town. And I knew that this was going to be the only opportunity that I was going to be able to see him. And at the time, I was probably 5 or 6 years sober. And, you know, they tell us not to make amends unless you talk to your sponsor first and pray on it, which I fully agree with, okay? But I also knew that this was, like, my only opportunity to make amends to this guy face to face. Like, I wasn't going to fly, you know, out of the country to make amends to him. It just wasn't going to happen. And so I went up to him, like, when he was leaving, and I was like, hey, like, can I talk to you for a second? And he was, like, ignoring me and, like, you know, F off and what, I mean, he did not want to talk to me. And so finally I, like, grabbed him, and he, like, turned around. He was like, what do you want from me? And I was like, very quickly, I was like, I'm part of a 12-step program. I need to make amends to you. It's part of what I do, and I don't know that I'll have that opportunity to do it again. You know, and so, like, he was like, well, okay, what do you need to say to me? And so, and I can see it, like, visualize it today. It's like there was, like, 3 people standing around, and he was standing there facing me. And I said, you know, like, this is what we do. This is the process. I need to tell you, like, how I harmed you, and I need to take responsibility and accountability for it. And then I allow you to tell me if there are things that I'm forgetting, you know, and then let me know what I can do to make that right. And so, you know, there was, like, this exchange that went back and forth. It was not pretty, and I basically just spewed all of these things, and he just kind of stood there, and then at the end, he was like, you know, and you can just effing never talk to me again. I don't want to see you, whatever. And I was like, I can do that. I can do that, you know? I think the person that I was when I was using was so ate up, like I said, with needing that validation from somebody, that I would have ran after. But why aren't I good enough? Why aren't I good enough today that I've changed and I've become a different person? And maybe this is where the crux of it all is. I don't know. Why isn't it that you can't see that I've changed and that I'm good enough today and that I'm a different person? And don't you want to know that person? But I didn't need that, you know? I didn't need that because the work was for me. And, you know, and really ultimately the amends process is for us. It really is. And, you know, the thing is that if I run into him on the street down the road, I don't have to feel like I have to make that amends again. I've made that amends. It's done. It's said, you know, and what he thinks or what he has to say, that's his business, right? You know, I had a situation where I made amends to somebody, and like, we had a very nice conversation, you know, and, and they took a lot of responsibility as well for the situation that had happened. And then like 2 weeks later, they were behaving in the same manner. And I called my sponsor and I said, I don't know what to do with this. And my sponsor said, you did your part. You made amends, and now let it go. That doesn't have anything to do with you anymore, what they're doing about that, you know? And so I think there's so much of that in there. There will always be a part of me that wants somebody's validation. I just don't need it to exist today. And I will tell you, this is what's changed through the years, is that the people's validation that I need today or that I want are not the people that I wanted 20 years ago. And if there are people in my life that are close to me, you know, I hope that we can talk it out, you know? I think if I was in early recovery and I had somebody in my life that wasn't letting me forget the things that I had done, I think I would take it to them and I would say, like, can you explain to me why you won't let me forget this or whatever? You know, there were a lot of people that didn't want to talk to me in early recovery. In retrospect, I'm kind of okay with that. It kind of like really helped me like stay sober in myself. You know, it was like a time for me to meet new people and, you know, build a support network and go to meetings and things like that. So anyway, I don't know, but I think it's a really great topic for discussion in recovery and to talk about, you know, and I think really ultimately what it is about, you know, letting go and letting God, you know, and I think, you know, like it says in 112-step program, you know, we don't forget the past nor do we close the door on it, you know, and I think that that's important to remember, that it's not about, it's about remembering those things that we did and always remembering where we came from. Like, I don't want to ever forget who I was day one when I walked into recovery. But I also don't need to live in that for the rest of my life. I just don't, you know, because that's not who I am today. I'm a different person today. And I'm thankful for that. And there's, you know, and like I joke on like my drama channel saying, you know, oh, I'm a changed person. All these people that say they're changed people. Well, I could show you the work that I've done to become a different person today. You know, I can show you and say, here are periods in my life where I had no emotional sobriety. I had no spiritual foundation. This is the work that I did to get there. This is the inventory that I did. This is the sleepless nights that I had sitting up, writing inventory. This is the work that I did with my sponsor. This is, you know, I could show you the work that I did to become a different person today, as I'm sure that many of you out there could do as well, you know? And we don't have to prove that to anybody today. It's a feeling that we have inside that we're different people living different lives, you know? I will say this, I didn't get sober to have to prove to anybody else the existence that I live. You know, I didn't get sober to prove to anybody that I'm sober and that I have this great life today. I got sober to live a great life, you know, not to prove a great life. Anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.